Let's predict what the committee is going to do here for these college football playoff rankings. The second edition for the 2025 season tomorrow night. We'll go 1 through 12 specifically for the playoff bracket. Okay, so I don't think the committee is going to put an ACC team into the top 12 or a G5 team into the top 12, quite frankly. So we'll account for the 11 and 12 spot respectively. We'll break it all down. It's not just me doing that, though. No, it's the man, the myth, the legend, two-time All-Sun Belt safety, fresh today on the show, man. Our very own Caden Smith, you know him as Kato. Kato, I'm excited for this, man. Starting to ramp up, starting to feel real. We got the second college football playoff rankings, man. It's starting to take shape a little bit.
Yeah, man. We had of course, everyone's favorite segment, 25 questions. 25 questions, though, a little bit not irrelevant, but not as relevant when you have the CFP rankings hot off the presses. So you're going to reveal your 12 teams that you think would make it in the bracket, and I'll have a question for each of them. So cutting it down a little bit, 25 questions to 12, but it's that time of year, man. You can feel the postseason coming, and I'm jazzed about this and jazzed to ask you some questions about these teams.
I'm jazzed to answer them. They're always good questions, for the record. For those of y'all that have tuned into the 25, Kato explained that beautifully. We'll go 1 through 12 here. This is what I think the committee's going to do. So my rankings versus the committee rankings are a little bit different, but to give you some spoilers for what the committee's going to do, tomorrow, Kato, I don't think Ohio State will be any lower than 1. Pretty cut and dry here. They've been a wagon. Julian Sain is spinning it. Jeremiah Smith had 10 catches, career high for the kid against Purdue. Ohio State is going to come down to the Michigan game in terms of them being in the Big Ten championship game more than likely, but I feel pretty good about them being the best team in college football. Don't think the committee will have any different take from their first rankings where they have the Buckeyes in the second rankings.
Yeah, man, they're on a 13-game win streak right now, 34-10 win. They had a 24-point second quarter, JD. They put the throttle on really quickly there. But, JD, if you had to bet on Ohio State winning the national championship versus the rest of the field, who would you choose?
It's so tough because that's a great question. I picked Ohio State in the midseason to go win the whole thing. So didn't pick them preseason. That was a different team. It's not in the top 12. But whenever we have these discussions, I always feel so obligated to take the field because I was listening to, I think it was Russillo and Chris Felica earlier on in the season talking about the same discussion of would you take 3 teams versus the field, and the 3 teams were Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami. Now, since then, Miami might not even make the college football playoff. Oregon has suffered a loss to Indiana, and we don't view them in the same light. So that just, to me, it speaks to how quickly things can change in this sport, Kato. Yeah. I would take the field. Not knocking Ohio State, but, like, who's to say Indiana doesn't boss up a little bit, or A&M finds their flow state more consistently. November Georgia's around now. Alabama and I don't feel great taking any team over the field, and Ohio State is not exempt from that. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I wanted to get you on a clip here, honestly. It would have been great to have a social media clip of you being like, Ohio State versus the field, give me Ohio State. Like, I was definitely clip farming you a little bit there. But, no, I think Ohio State's really their only weakness is, like, trying to have some foresight and picture a world where Julian Sain gets frazzled, like, on a big stage. Like, if a Michigan, a Big Ten championship, a postseason, like, if he, like, didn't meet the moment in the postseason, that's kind of their only, like, weakness, I guess. Like, the run game isn't super exciting, but definitely still serviceable. And then, like, all the other teams obviously have, I think, bigger weaknesses when you trickle down. So that's kind of how it is for me. It's like, I could, like, if the reasons why other teams don't win the Natty, it's like Alabama's run game, maybe not though. Georgia hasn't been as consistent. Like, we've seen now Indiana, like, someone get the better of Indiana for the first time in a while, a couple quarters. So it was more so in my head, like, assessing the weaknesses of it, and Ohio State having the pedigree over everyone right now. But yeah, I'd probably still barely lean the field, though. The field.
Too much wild things that could happen in college football. Yeah. So I think they'll have Ohio State at 1. I think they'll have Indiana at 2. Now the discussion becomes, how much do you knock Indiana for playing a close game with Penn State? Because Oregon, they were ranked 9 in those first rankings, and their best win, quote unquote, was, if it's not Penn State, it's USC. So they clearly got docked for beating Penn State, or they didn't view the Penn State win as maybe as valuable as it felt in that moment. I don't think you drop Indiana because you found a way to win against Penn State. I'd be wildly shocked if they flip-flopped A&M and Indiana. Regardless of what I think the right move is there, I think Indiana's going to be at 2, Kato.
Yeah, man, 27-24 win over a surprisingly frisky Penn State team. 30 seconds left in the game, catch of the year, toe-tap touchdown. Just an amazing finish to the game. Did you learn anything new about Indiana this weekend from that game we saw in Happy Valley?
I think we learned a little bit more about what's under the hood, man.
Yeah.
Because we see them blowing teams out. 31 points, I think, was the average margin of victory. They were just boat racing teams, and that's fun. But whenever that happens, Kato, we talk about the heavy bar a good amount, and they beat Oregon, which is a heavy bar win. But you wonder, do you get so used to winning a certain way to where you get in a bit of a fight, you don't have that same familiarity? Like it's why I like Alabama and Georgia right now, quite frankly, in this college football playoff discussion, because they've been in those close games. So Indiana not having the fastball doesn't worry me. Seeing them win without their fastball is actually encouraging, I think, if you're a Hoosier fan.
Yeah, I think we learned more about Indiana in this game, in the Oregon game, than any of the other blowouts, right? Like, it looked kind of boring for them, the way they were blowing some of these teams out. Even the Iowa game as well. Like, those are the moments that, like, when it comes to the postseason and I'm trying to figure out if I have Indiana winning the first round matchup or any games in the playoff potentially, I'm going to look at this game and those other games as kind of my point of reference. And yeah, under the hood, man, without some of your best players, you make it happen. And you have your coach still as confident as ever before the game. And that would have been a very funny clip if they would have ended up losing the game of Kurt Cinetti before the game, talking about this team hasn't played here, and then they still lose. Like, that would have been unbelievable. But yeah, man, I love that they were able to manufacture some heavy bar for themselves. And Penn State's still a talented team. They gave them their best shot. But you definitely have to feel, I think, weirdly a little bit better about Indiana as a team that can now maybe win multiple games in the postseason after this one specifically, having that comeback win. Mendoza's confidence on that last drive was very critical, and he might need that if this team wants to get to where they want to go. So definitely more impressed with what they got under the hood as well.
Just delivering seeds that final drive. Anyone to go 80 yards with their boys, Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall pick in that draft. A&M's going to be at 3. I think they should be at 2, Cato. It's not my rankings, though. It's the committee's rankings. You blow out Missouri, and say what you want about Missouri with a freshman quarterback. That was obviously a big part of the game, but that front seven, I think for Missouri, is pretty solid. A&M ran roughshod all over them. I don't see a world where A&M is dropping out of the top 3, and I think this is also pretty cut and dry when it comes to these first 3 teams.
I love the Aggies, man. I know I kind of picked them on this show to be the team that could win the national championship, not named Ohio State. 3 straight wins for these guys, road stretch. 38-17 win at Missouri. The offense was balanced. The defense made Matt Zollers look like the freshman he is. We didn't preview them playing South Carolina, where I feel like you would probably get more into this, but how would you go about trying to attack or game plan against this team on either side of the ball, really? Like, it just looks like tough sledding. I'm curious how you would go about it. If you were a South Carolina, a Texas, a playoff team playing A&M, what do you do?
I think you got to be able to throw the football is the first thought. Like, I go back to what Notre Dame was able to do against A&M, and in my mind's eye, I see a couple of shots downfield where even when they didn't connect, they had a couple of plays where A&M got a little bit handsy. Now is that just, hey, early on in the year, you're getting used to playing actual college football games with real referees in that spot? Maybe that's that officiating crew's call. I don't know. You got to be able to challenge downfield, and then you got to be able to limit the overall touches for playmakers, which is different than taking away a receiver downfield, as you well know, Cato. Like, to take away how do you take away the screen game? You know, I don't know how you do that. And then if you do that effectively, are you able to also cover the back end effectively? I don't think so. And there's so many different ways for A&M to get you. So I'm not really answering your question very well, but I think the point I'm trying to make is you have to hope for an off day from Marcel Reed or get him off his pivot, and then you have to be able to push the football downfield to mellow out that A&M defense and ideally force A&M to press a little bit scoring-wise. It's a tall task, man. It's a reason why I think you picked them to win the whole darn thing when you picked them in the midseason, rather. Yeah,
and that's part of the framing for the question. It's like this team, when they are firing on all cylinders, they have no weaknesses, and more often than not, they haven't. So it's a tough thing. Like, you can try to get the ball out of their hands of their playmakers, but they can run the ball. They're not great defending the run, and Missouri even showed some of that with the running backs they had in there.
Yeah.
But even still, like, you got to cash in on your opportunities. You have to play really good on third down to beat this team, and we talked about it. Like, Marcel has some highs and lows in every game. He makes some throws where, like, what are you doing, man? He's limited those, but I feel like trying to force him into some of those is just so much easier said than done when him and Colin Klein are seemingly just sharing a brain right now, and everything's firing on all cylinders. So curious to see if anyone slows them down the regular season, but really excited for this team in the postseason for sure.
I like that, sharing a brain.
It's half and half, man. It feels like their offense is just half his brain, half the other brain. There's a couple teams like that, I feel like, with the quarterback and the coordinator. I think we're about to talk about one right here as well.
Yeah, man. I think the Marcel Reed, Colin Klein bond is very strong from a football perspective, and I also appreciate that they just don't seem to ever be overly excited about any of their wins. Like, they're pretty much business as usual. Yeah, we expect to win. We didn't play well enough here, and here, says Mike Elko. We'll move forward. Very reminiscent of a specific coach that used to coach in Tuscaloosa, whose name is escaping me, Nicholas something. Alabama at number 4. Alabama, I don't see a world where they drop Kato. Pretty cut and dry. Wasn't the prettiest game against LSU, but you expected to get LSU's best. Bama still wins. Bama still covers. It might just be Ty Simpson, dude. It might just be, hey, we have Ty Simpson, you don't. Game blouses Bama.
Yeah, I mean, he's, like I said, with Marcel Reed. Him and Ryan Grubb are sharing a brain right now, too. I mean, this guy is playing like a robot in the best way possible. Like, he is going through his reads, making quick decisions, pulling the trigger. He had great, amazing throws. The defense, I think, on both sides of the ball of the LSU game really surprised me. 20-9 win, but J.D. still 26 carries, 56 yards on the ground for that Alabama rushing attack. Now heading into a game against Oklahoma where they're great at stopping the run. In a postseason scenario, plenty of teams will probably also be great at stopping the run. It's November. This team still can't run the ball. How much are you worried about that for Alabama and their goals the rest of the year?
It's a great question, and I would have been more worried if they didn't have Ty Simpson, which is almost like an irresponsible thing to say, but
yeah.
You just keep going back to, like, yeah, they haven't run the football well. Yeah, they haven't been great controlling the line of scrimmage offensively, but Ty Simpson seems to make it not matter. So until we see that not work outside of Florida State, I'm going to just keep trusting that Bama and Ty Simpson are going to be able to keep throwing down the ace of spades. Worried, but not that worried, Kato, to keep it a buck, man.
Yeah, I think if they do lose in the postseason, it'll be something that's brought up like retroactively. But it's so funny because like traditionally, if you like close your eyes and picture an Alabama or any of these teams not having success in the run game, and you're like very confident in saying like, oh, well, their quarterback's great though, like they'll be just fine. You picture a mobile quarterback who like maybe generates rushing yards himself. Ty Simpson is almost the opposite quarterback I would picture that could just like just supersede what the run game shortcomings are. Like, this dude is a pure pocket passer, technique on 100, delivering the ball to dudes. Like, you can't run the ball and say, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to pick this team apart and like expose the zone coverage. And anytime we have a good leverage in man, I'm exposing that too. Like, to me, it's like football wise, like such a comical way to counteract not having a run game is just having a surgeon at quarterback, which solves a lot of problems.
Legitimately, yeah. I mean, you think John Mateer. Like,
yeah.
you would think with the same conversation we had about Oklahoma, hey, run game can't get going. John Mateer can do that for you, but you nailed it, man. It's Ty Simpson's not that, and Bama keeps on rolling, man. They hold that tiebreaker in SEC country over Georgia, which could prove to be valuable should Alabama find themselves in a spot where they drop a game. I think the committee is going to put Georgia at 5, which isn't a surprise. Georgia looks like they're November Georgia right now, Kato. And the way that they went out there and handled business, and what I was saying all week long was a tricky spot against Mississippi State, and you were not saying that, so flowers to you, bouquets to you. Georgia feels like they've arrived right now. That is scary for the rest of college football. They'll be ranked 5. If I'm Kirby Smart, rank us wherever you want. We'll see y'all in the playoff, and we'll be a problem when we get there.
Perfect transition to this question, JD. As I forecasted and you mentioned, throttled Mississippi State 41-21. There was a point in this game where they scored 38 straight points. Unbelievable. Do you expect dominance like this from the Dogs the rest of the season and maybe even the postseason?
The Texas game, I don't, just because the personnel for Texas is so good. But I do think we will see a much more consistent Georgia, which I think is the most important part. Like, we've seen Georgia win games where they show up for 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters, and it's like, oh, good, you're here now. Awesome defense. Let's go get a couple stops against Ole Miss. 2 stops ends up winning you the football game. So I think consistent Georgia. I don't think it'll be dominance because of what the rest of the season looks like with them playing Georgia Tech, and we mentioned the Texas game. But when they get to the college football playoff, consistent Georgia is going to be good enough to win more than just one game in that playoff. And that in itself should be terrifying for everyone else, man. Like, Gunnar Stockton's rolling right now.
He's awesome.
I don't understand why he's not getting more Heisman love. He's throwing seeds, dude.
He's doing exactly what his team's asking of him and some. Like, he's been playing unbelievable. He turned me into a believer really quick. This was a casual day for him, and he still had an amazing stat line. I think them playing Texas and Texas having a bye was part of the reason why I thought they'd get right in this spot, because I think Kirby's like, hey, man, like, cardiac kids, like, it's funny to say after the game, but I think behind closed doors, he's like, hey, guys, like, Texas is sitting at home watching us play Mississippi State this weekend, and we don't want them licking their chops by watching us play another close game. Let's put our best foot forward. Let's end November strong. And I think if that happened, which we saw, and if they go out here, I'll tell you what, if they cover against Texas or win in any kind of fashion that's very demonstrative, I'd be worried about this team in the postseason. And in my head, I'm trying to picture, like, as we get closer to the playoff, all right, which of these teams looks like a team where no matter what side of the bracket they're on, I have them coming out. And if Georgia starts rolling and this quarterback keeps playing like this and this defense can start to back it up and they can play complementary, which they've been good, very good and very bad at times this year, but if they can put it together, man, they might be that kind of team with that kind of head coach where if I see them on one side of the bracket, I'm like, yeah, I have them coming out, because they have that pedigree. So if they figure it out this month, man, no better time with the present for the Dogs. And I think they're still extremely dangerous in the postseason, man.
Dude, they're quietly, I think, the second most dynamic offense in the SEC.
Dude,
behind A&M.
Stable of backs.
Frazier, Bowens. Like, they even when they lost to Alabama, they ran for over 200 yards. Like, I don't think that's clocking to the rest of the country is how good they are up front running the ball. And then Gunnar Stockton, the way that he's pushing the football downfield. Like, we think about Georgia, we think defensive draft picks. We think Kirby Smart with his tongue out and just absolutely body bagging TCU and just, playing stalwart kind of defense. This is an offensive football team in Georgia, and when the defense seems to have now caught up, they're going to be really freaking tough to stop, dude. I think their competitive disposition is right where you would want it to be in the month of November, which, true to Kirby Smart form, Georgia in November has arrived.
Yeah, man, and they've got their guy at quarterback, man. Like, we talk about Carson Beck. They didn't seem to care too much once he walked, and this guy just fits the thumbprint and the blueprint of this team so much better than Carson Beck, I think, and this offense plays hard for him, and I think they're getting to the point now with between the stable of backs, the versatility with the tight ends, and having to deal with Zachariah Branch getting maybe 10 targets in a game, short, intermediate, deep, like, it's getting to a point where it's stretching the defense out in a way that we saw, I think, Mississippi State just have their hands absolutely full with trying to figure out where the ball is going to go. If we know they're going to run up the middle, they're still falling forward and getting yardage. And then if they're not doing that, they're finding these other weapons that are really coming into their own. The defense is obviously, I think, still the big question. But I think Gunnar, man, especially in the postseason, his character, him being on that, him getting thrust into that stage last year and seeing how excited this team was to play and be bought into what he had going on under center, they'll double down on that this year, I think. And I think if this is a confident team that looks in the mirror and sees a national championship kind of contender with that guy at quarterback, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 in these big postseason games, like, I'm not betting against Gunnar Stockton, man, and he seems like the perfect guy for this team and what Kirby Smart wants this team to be, despite them not having the shiny NFL picks left and right like they usually have. I think, like, if Georgia won the Natty this year, we would crown this as one of Kirby's best coaching job. This is so impressive. But I think it would have everything to do with this quarterback too, man, who is just the definition of a Georgia Bulldog right now as far as how he's playing.
He doesn't get the shine in the SEC because Ty Simpson's hooping and Marcel Reed's hooping. Trinidad Chambliss is awesome. John Mateer, Arch Manning. But then, like, Gunnar Stockton, just quietly, I think he should get way more Heisman buzz than he's gotten. And just what you said, his personality fits what Georgia is to a T much better than what you had previously. Georgia's rolling right now, and I think they'll be at number 5. And again, if I'm Kirby, I don't care where you rank us. Get us in the dance. Y'all got to see us, and we'll handle business when we get to that 4-quarter stretch. We'll throttle through these last 6 here, Kato. Well, I guess 7 total, but at number 6, I think it'll be Texas Tech, dude. I think they'll jump up, man. I really do. Yes, I like that.
You know what you did.
I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to. I saw Mark Gronowski hit the most aggressive 6-7.
That was too much.
And I was like, never in my life will I end up doing that. But here we are. I think Texas Tech and that win over BYU, they're going to put them at 6, bro. Now, they're jumping some teams from what they were last week. I just think the way that they made a definitive statement against BYU, and quite frankly, it should have been worse. Like, they should have gotten some touchdowns where they took field goals. Should have, would have, could have. Texas Tech at 6. I think the committee, based on the eye test, will feel comfortable enough having the Red Raiders a couple spots up from what they were a week ago.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do it because I think it would set a precedent moving forward as far as how much we should expect teams to jump. So I think the movement in this area of the CFP that we're going to find out it's going to be very telling, I think, going forward when we have much more like ranked matchups in the future. These last couple weeks. But I think I'm going to ask here, JD. We mentioned 29-7 win. The front seven looked amazing. Other side of the ball, though, you could see the quarterback Baron Morton, man, fighting an injury, hairline fracture in the leg. I mentioned this when Will Hammond was out for the season, but now it seems like it's going to be more of a talking point moving forward. How much does this Baron Morton injury that he's battling through right now affect how you look at the outlook for the Red Raiders and their postseason hopes?
I still think they're a team that can contend for a national title. My confidence points decrease a good amount just because of what we said. If Baron Moore's not 110% healthy, you're obviously sacrificing what you have on the offense. An offense that likes to push the football downfield. They're top 15 in America when it comes to yards per pass. So I still love all the core things that I loved Texas Tech for before. The front seven, the weapons, the backfield also was awesome.
Yeah.
But if I don't get the Baron Morton that I signed up for when I made that decision to pick Texas Tech to be a potential national title contender, I don't feel as great about it, Kato.
Yeah, and I think that there's not, like, if you look at all the teams ranked above, there's not very many teams I feel great about with any of their quarterbacks playing under, man, just given, like, the rest of what the team looks like. You know what I mean? Like, I think all of these teams will need their quarterbacks at their full strength to make this playoff run. So it's not an indictment on Texas Tech at all. I think the question is, can your defense take over? Like, I'll be watching that unit very closely because I think they know. They watch the film. They're at the game. They see their quarterback limping around. They want to make things as easy as possible. They'll keep teams out of that paint, and they did that this weekend. So, I mean, if Texas Tech can maybe even win ugly here down the stretch and keep teams' point totals low, carry that into the postseason, I think it gets really interesting really fast for them for sure because they have the talent, man. That front seven looks like a playoff defense for sure. That will travel, that will go to your place. You can come to them. It won't matter. Like they have some dogs up front, that front seven, man.
Some real dogs, man. Some dudes for the Red Raiders out there in Lubbock. Now, I think they're going to jump Ole Miss, who I think the committee is going to put at 7, which if you're Ole Miss, you're like, dude, we played the Citadel. Had an awesome social media moment where someone proposes and Kiffin photobombs. Like, that doesn't count for anything. I just think it's more of a thing where Texas Tech gets love for the BYU win than knocking Ole Miss. I think the committee will do that based off of the eye test, which we already mentioned. But if you're Ole Miss, you're just like, okay, we'll handle business, I guess. I mean, we're still a college football playoff team if we keep on winning out. I think Ole Miss will be 7, Kato.
Yeah, man, you stole some of the thunder with one of the things you mentioned in that Ole Miss preamble for the question I was going to ask, because people forget, this is a fun segment, man. They blew out the Citadel, like you mentioned. They faced Florida and Mississippi State, who are both coming off just like blowout like not good, tough losses.
Yeah.
It seems like Ole Miss, because of that, will walk into the playoffs. So what are your thoughts on the on-the-field proposal that happened in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium and just sporting event proposals in general?
Dude, it really depends on the bride, doesn't it?
It has to.
Like, my wife would have probably said no on the spot if I'd proposed that way. She'd have been like, what? Do you not know? You think I want all these people watching this moment? One, it's a football game. This is a proposal for you, not for me. So if she's like all the way in on it and she's like a college football fan and that's something she would enjoy, great. But it is very much so a case-by-case basis. And I wouldn't say it's a one-size-fits-all proposal if I'm just going to go ahead and keep it a buck there.
Yeah, like if your significant other, like if you have to even question if it's a good idea to do the proposal at the game, it's probably not. If she better be full send in like this team. She eats, sleeps, breathes this team's brand of ball, whoever it is, or not, or just don't do it. The essential question for the day, for the audience, just everyone, if women propose to men, how many of these will we see? Like how much more of these will we see? Because then it's like, okay, like that's where I want like dudes would be like weird if she doesn't propose to me at the game.
It'd be every Saturday.
It'd be every Saturday, every sporting event, every sport. Dudes would be getting proposed left and right to all these games. So there's an alternate universe where women propose to men, and the sporting event market is a hotbed, I'd say.
Start monetizing that. If you're some of these different schools, hey, you want to propose, you can do it at our game for X99, but
straight to the NIL pocket.
Straight, yeah. Help us buy another edge defender. Help us buy a quarterback net. Help us keep our quarterback this year. Heck, Oregon's got a quarterback. I think they're gonna be number 8. Win over Iowa, I think, will probably boost their resume a little bit. I don't know how they're jumping an Ole Miss or a Texas. Like anyone in front of them, I don't think they jump, but I do think they move up a spot from 9 to 8. Oregon, I think the committee will have right in that 8 spot, Cato, when those rankings come out.
Yeah, man, it's an important spot too because this is like the fringe of hosting or not. But
yeah,
you mentioned it, raining, sleeting in Kinnick Stadium, 18-6 win, 18-16, I should say. Dante Moore 2-minute drill, Atticus Sappington game-winning field goal. Oregon looks more tough to me, but post Indiana, they ran the ball great again. Defense looked tough. Dante Moore super composed. What has impressed you the most about the Ducks post Indiana loss?
I think the ability to respond, and I think the fact that they were able to, like we said before, the fact they won that game running the ball against Iowa. Like, Iowa is a good outfit on the defensive side. Iowa, if you had told me Oregon's going to run for 261 going into that game, I'd be like, Oregon probably scored 30. Oregon probably scored 40. Like, they had their way. The ability to run the football, I think, is something that you're going to need here going forward if you're the Ducks, especially with a first-year, like a true first-year starter in Dante Moore. I know he started at UCLA, but like a true first-year starter, to be able to do that in just gross, grimy conditions against that team in Big Ten play, super impressive. So the survival kit for Oregon, I feel only better about here going forward than I did post-Penn State and now going forward post-Iowa.
Yeah, I think the composure of Dante Moore, both in the Penn State game and this game, with like weather, on the road, like all the elements. I'm really curious, like if they get to a neutral site game in this postseason, man, like I feel very comfortable with him with the ball in his hands.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Not like some of these other guys, like Mendoza, like led a game-winning drive, obviously won the head-to-head matchup. We sing the praises of a Gunnar Stockton, but this kid's pulse does not move in these moments. So I'm really curious how he plays on a postseason stage. And I think the word on the streets, he's going to come back. So not to look ahead to next season, but if this is how he's composed in his first season as a starter, next year maybe get another year De'Corian Moore. Like he didn't have De'Corian Moore and Kenyon Sadiq as well. That's another thing. Like he's putting his full trust in Benton and some of those guys. Some of those throws he made down the stretch in that weather are hard to make at practice, much less in Kinnick Stadium in the rain. So I'm most impressed, I think, with Dante.
It's Pat Mahomes' favorite college quarterback, man. And you got to.
Sorry, Dylan.
You stay in college if you're Pat Mahomes' favorite college quarterback and be his favorite college quarterback for not 1 but 2 years. So Oregon at 8. I think the committee will do that. I think the committee will also have Notre Dame at 9. Now, they were the big talking point for a lot of folks when those rankings came out last Tuesday, with them being at 10. I think BYU losing moves Notre Dame up to that 9 spot. I mean, Notre Dame, man, they just keep winning. Looks like they're going to be in the dance should they find a way to beat Pitt, and if they don't have any like massively eyebrow-raising games that make you say, I don't know if I trust that Notre Dame team. Right now, I think they're trustworthy. I think the committee will have them at 9.
Yeah, you mentioned the talking points of it all that have come from the Notre Dame ranking, and we're going to lean to that right here. We're going to go conspiracy corner a little bit. They rolled over Navy once again. They now face a ranked Pitt team on a national stage with College Game Day pulling up to the Steel City. JD, is this all a ploy for the powers that be to have a 2-loss Notre Dame get in the college football playoff over a 2-loss team from the SEC, you say, the Big Ten, or another conference?
Interesting. I like this. I like a little tinfoil hat on for the
college
boys, man.
College Game Day in Pitt. Why
Here
is
we
that?
go.
Why is that? Why are we going to Pitt? Is it because we've gone to these SEC schools already, or do we want to gas this game up, put some gasoline on the fire, and give Notre Dame a little some action here as they try to make the postseason?
It's a good question. It's a fair question. I think that if Notre Dame's able to be definitive down the stretch, it should make people feel a lot better about them being in the playoff, because I think we almost as college football fans like dismiss losses as just like, oh, they lost the game, so they must not be good. And it's like, yes, a loss is a loss. There's no good loss. I guess there's good loss in terms of like the resume stuff, but just purely from a football perspective, we talk about A&M being this, missile of a team with what they are right now in the context of November. Notre Dame should have taken them to overtime. Like, they're a bad hold away from playing Notre Dame, A&M overtime game, and maybe Notre Dame finds a way to win it at home. I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make here is the margins are that thin between A&M at 9 and A&M, at 3, and Notre Dame being a team at 9, 6 spots for a bad hold in a game against Miami. I don't know. I'm just looking at this here, Kato. I think Notre Dame has every case to be a legit playoff team because of the losses and less so the wins.
I remember when Marcus Freeman had his big noon conversation with Joel Klatt this summer, and they talked about not the postseason. They talked about the conference and not being in a conference for Notre Dame, and if why they're not in a conference. There's some history behind it. And if Marcus Freeman thinks they would ever join a conference, and Marcus Freeman said, we'd like to be independent, but he trusts the AD that if they're ever in a position to not make the postseason because of not being in a conference, that's when they will step in. I think the SEC existing and having 10-2 teams along with Notre Dame would be that scenario. Like, I think I get that the losses were close, and I get that they were in the beginning of the year and they look better this year. But at the end of the day, if there are SEC teams that are 10-2, that's only losses came to teams that are also ranked, that are quite frankly better than Miami or right up there with an A&M, and they did an SEC schedule and played just better competition week in and week out, I think you'd have to give that the nod over Notre Dame. If the losses are the same, if Notre Dame and a Texas or an Oklahoma both have 2 losses, you both have 2 losses, and you just look at the resume of wins between the SEC teams and Notre Dame, I think it gets grim for them. So curious to see how it plays out. I think because of that, they need some more losses. Like, they need some other stuff to go down. I don't think they control their own destiny if they win out, because I still think there are teams that could impress so much. If Texas wins out, if Oklahoma wins out, man, they get some big-time wins. And those are against teams that are closer to the postseason than Notre Dame was when they played at Miami that's looking on the outside end of the postseason now. So I think it could get dicey, but we'll see, man. It all starts this weekend in Pitt.
You mentioned the game against Texas, or the game that will impact Notre Dame's playoff aspirations. You'd have to think is Texas playing Texas A&M at the end of the year. If Texas beats Texas A&M, especially if they beat Georgia, like Texas is in without a doubt, but you wonder about the head-to-head opponent conversation if it becomes Notre Dame lost to A&M, Texas beat A&M. We'll see what happens in that whole discussion, obviously, but obviously a 10-2 Texas is in. I think Texas will be at the 10 spot, Kato. 11 last week. With the chaos in front of them, they'll move up a spot. Texas, again, I keep saying this, like, it's funny to talk about them in this 9-12 range, because if Texas goes out and finishes 10-2, that means they will have a loss to Ohio State, which is arguably the best quote-unquote loss based on ranking in all of college football. And then you'll have a win over Georgia, a win over A&M. So Texas will be 10. The conversation becomes interesting with Oklahoma behind them, with Notre Dame and all that. But to put it simply here, this is a prediction segment, Texas will be number 10 when the committee does their rankings.
Yeah, man, they have a big one this weekend. They're going to Athens. They're playing Georgia, and they'll look to keep those college football playoff hopes alive. Yep. And I think their schedule's perfect for what they got going on right now. Like, everything's still ahead of them, as you mentioned. But J.D., Arch Manning specifically, coming off his 2 best performances of the year, had a bye week as well. What do you expect from him specifically between the hedges this weekend against the Dogs?
If he has a run game, I expect him to look good. I expect the game plan to be very Arch Manning friendly. And if he can have a good start, get that confidence in a good place, feel good about how things are rolling against Georgia early, that's the biggest thing. It all seems to be upstairs with Arch. It seems like that's clicked the last couple of games for them. You hope that it's a thing where you don't lose momentum through the bye week, Kato.
Yeah, I mean, such an interesting case study. Like, the ceiling of this is Arch. This is Arch. Like, the last 2 games are what he is and what he will continue to be. And he can lead this team. If he leads this team to a big win against Georgia, man, A&M, SEC title game, I mean, it's all still there for them. They're the most interesting team that still somehow controls their own destiny. And what a redemption arc it would be if Arch – I think Arch is just balling in this game. If they don't win and it's not Arch's fault and he's still balling, I think that would hush a lot of naysayers for sure. But excited for the opportunity for Texas and Oklahoma this weekend as they both try to fight for their playoff lives, man, against 2 of the top teams in the country.
A redemption arch, if you will, for those keeping track of the puns at home. Now, Texas will be 10. I think Oklahoma will be ranked 11th. However, we haven't hit an ACC team just yet here. I think Georgia Tech will be the highest-ranked ACC team. So while Oklahoma is going to be ranked 11, Georgia Tech in the playoff conversation would be seeded 11th in this discussion, Kato. Just with them being the highest. I mean, who knows who's going to win the ACC, but when the rankings come out via the committee, Georgia Tech will be in that 11th seed. Not ranked 11th, but in that 11th seed.
Yeah, let's talk about the Jackets. They go against Boston College this weekend. They're coming off a bye. They're coming off their first loss of the year, and then Virginia loses to Wake Forest. So now they stand at the top of these ACC rankings. How much confidence do you have in Georgia Tech even making the ACC title game? I'm not even going to ask winning it, just making it. How much confidence do you have?
I don't know. I don't know. Because I really like Pitt, to be honest with you.
You do like Pitt.
A couple of weeks ago, I was like, frick, man. Like, Georgia Tech is probably the most trustworthy team in the ACC, but now I see Pitt doing what they're doing, and I see the momentum they have behind Heinschel. Like, I don't know what to do with the ACC. I'll say it this way. I think Georgia Tech is one of the top 2 teams in that conference. If the math shakes out to where they get to play in the conference title game, I think that would be the correct move.
Yeah, I think I was going to check, man. Hypothetically, you like Pitt. What if Pitt wins this weekend? I think you kind of have to have college game day at Georgia Tech the next week. Like, we got to go to Atlanta if Pitt wins, right?
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, the
100%.
standings are insane. We'll see how this conference plays itself out, but I still think I trust the traits of a one Brent Key that he's instilled in this team to get it done. And not to mention too, if they take care of business, they play a tough Georgia Bulldogs team to end the year, and maybe that gives them a little some nicer reps before going into ACC title game potentially. So we'll see, man. But the ACC is going to be the league to watch, I think, to see down the stretch what the postseason looks like.
It's getting hairy in the ACC, man. Getting very, very hairy in the ACC. So I'm pulling up here what the rankings were last week to try and figure out who would be ranked 12th. We haven't hit a G5 team just yet. So there will be a G5 team, I believe, represented in that 12 seed for the college football playoff bracket. Now, rankings, it's anybody's guess who they put at 12. Honestly, Georgia Tech could be ranked 12th with how this whole thing shakes out. Maybe BYU's number 12. We'll see. But I think that when you look at the college football playoff bracket, your G5 rep, your 12th seed to round this thing out, will be the South Florida Bulls.
Yeah,
you love the Bulls. I think it's them, man. I really do.
You love the Bulls, and it's very interesting because the American standings actually look very much like the ACC standings. Yeah. Right now, there are 5 one-loss teams in conference play in that league, including USF. So it looks like whoever comes out of that league will ultimately be the G5 rep. But I feel like a lot of your rationale with why you like USF from the start was the Florida win, 18-16. Florida's now 3-6, though, JD. How much should that be accounted for when you look at the Bulls in the postseason?
I think it would be accounted for more if there were a bunch of other like big P4 wins on the board for some of the other teams. Like JMU's the other team that you look at as being like a potential G5 sneaky bid. I guess Tulane probably factors in there too. Memphis with the Arkansas win factors in, and they also beat USF, but they have that extra loss. So all this to say, I think it would matter more if there were other big P4 wins you were comparing on the board. But like JMU, their P4 game was Louisville, which was a 2-score loss, which isn't aging horribly, but it doesn't match up with what the Florida win is, in my mind, at least in the mind of the committee, plus the Boise State win. So I think USF will be in that 12 seed.
Yeah, and to give more context to the JMU win as the Sun Belt guy of the show.
Yeah, please.
Tied game in the fourth quarter, and last 2 touchdowns were scored by Louisville, one off of a return fumble for a touchdown and another off of just a big-time play. So that game was closer than the box score will tell you. And I think that's what it comes down to, because I think if you win in this league, I think this league has so much respect right now. If you come out of the conference, I think they'll just put you in. But if it does come down to a James Madison, like a Sun Belt champion like a James Madison versus an American Conference champion, then it's like, okay, well, Memphis beat Arkansas. Do we like that? USF beat Florida. Do we like that? I've been on the front lines of saying that no one watches Group of 5 football who actually makes this decision. So I don't know if they're going to pick the team that necessarily has the best matchup. So a win against Florida for USF and some of these other things, I'll be very curious to see how they come to it. But it looks right now that like they regard that American is the best conference. You have Memphis in there. You have Tulane in there. USF, North Texas is amazing. I think they should be ranked as well. But I think the winner of that league will just get their bid and go about their business. But we'll see.
Kid, let me throw one more thing at you before we wrap up here. USF goes to Navy this weekend. In Annapolis, I believe, 11 a.m. kick. I'm just saying, if Navy pulls that off, are we looking at a world where maybe Navy gets a little more juice and maybe not the playoff front runner, but maybe some playoff chatter starts around the mids? Because they also could be a team that wins the AAC as well.
Yeah, they're right in the mix. They're one of those one-loss conference teams, like I mentioned. That loss they took to Notre Dame was their second loss of the season, just total. So, yeah, man, it's that you can never count out the academies. You can't count out Navy, South Florida, Tulane, North Texas, or even East Carolina right now. That's sitting at 4-1 in conference play. But yeah, there's still a lot of hay in the barn for this, or no hay in the barn, I guess. Right? It's not till the hay is in the barn.
Some being transported in there, but not all. The
hay. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Let's just say most of the hay is outside of the barn. So these next couple of weeks in the ACC and the AAC will be fascinating to watch. But yeah, you can't rule out Navy either. I think right now, like, I love North Texas. The problem is they've lost to USF, and it was a game where they gave up like 60-plus points. So we'll see how it works, Sam, man. It's just another exciting league to watch, and I think coming down the stretch here, whether it's playoffs or not playoffs, it's November, man. Like, the ball is just at its best, so we're pumped over here.
There you have it. There you have it. So that's what we think the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do tomorrow night. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think the committee is going to do when it comes to tomorrow night's rankings? Excited to hear from y'all there. Make sure you're subscribed on your way out the door. Caden Smith on the ones, the twos, the questions, the mic, all that, man. We appreciate y'all making this show what it is. For myself, J.D. PicKell, we love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.